everyone. Thank you very much for watching or listening. Liam Hartree here today with another episode of Presenting Champions for the Simply Inspired podcast. Today, I'm joined by a very, very special guest, Jimmy Kelly, professional boxer, coming on the show today. Has been in there with some of the best names in boxing, including Dennis Hogan, Jamie Munguia, Kanat Islam, Liam Smith, and quite a few others. Challenged for the WBO world title, held the WBO intercontinental title as well. There's been some very, very exciting fights in his career, and I'm sure there's more that are yet to come. So, Champ, thank you for coming on the show, mate, and it's great to have you here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate the time.
No worries at all. No worries at all. So, starting at the beginning, I mean, it's not really the beginning, but it's like the present day, I suppose. You have an exhibition fight coming up. I've seen on your Instagram. That's actually happening in Kuwait. Walk us through a little bit about like how that fight came to be and what your expectations are for the fight, because it's an interesting one, a little different, different location. It's a little different being an exhibition. So it'd be cool to get your thoughts on that one to start with, please.
Yeah, so the way it's come about, my missus, she was born in, she was brought up in Kuwait, and she left. She's a little bit older than me, so she left like when Saddam invaded, I think in like the early 90s. So she's not been back for like, I think she was still in primary school when she come over here, maybe like 8 or 9. And then she's never been back, but she's still got like family over there. And yeah, it just sort of come through like that angle, really. The promoter over there, he does like Thai boxing events, but I think he's looking to be getting into boxing. And I think he, in regards like Qatar had the Football World Cup, and you've had the big fight the other week in Saudi, and Dubai are doing events there. I think this is probably one of the first, one of the first moves of Kuwait jumping onto that like Middle Eastern scene, and yeah, I'm excited to be part of it. And the promoter of the show, Mashali's got like a lot big plans for what's going to be moving forward. So I'm happy to be involved, and it's a bit of a mad one because it's probably the best exhibition that's in the world that's never been like a proper fight with like myself and Kurbanov. But initially they asked me to do an exhibition with one of the like the Q8 amateur boxers, and I was like, yeah, it's no problem. Like I'm happy to have like a bit of a move around. And then I think the promoted at the WBC convention in Thailand. And I think he met Kurbanov there. He's doing a bit of a camp over there, and he just mentioned like he wanted to be involved, and if they just put us both together. There's a bit of a weight difference. I'm a weight above Kurbanov, and I fought like 2 weeks ago in Florida, so I wasn't keen on making championship weight again. So it's at like 165, and yeah, I think it's just to showcase top level boxing to the people of Kuwait and open up that market moving forward.
Yeah, amazing. Well, it's very cool to get the story about how it came to be, but also absolutely the right time to get involved because in the Middle East it's just getting bigger and bigger at the moment. So definitely sort of an untapped market there. Amazing. So obviously I mean, it's always good to take things one fight at a time, but you are coming off a good win recently as well. So looking forward past this Kuwait one into 2023, sort of a little bit further ahead. I mean, I don't want to look too far ahead, but just it'll be good to get a few more of your plans for the future, maybe for the next, until the end of the year or however far forward you want to go in time. I'm easy with that, to be honest.
Yeah, so I know my team have had a conversation with the Johnny Beck's team about maybe doing that. My manager spoke to Tom Lofer, Golovkin's manager, so that could be an option. We've got a meeting when we're out there in Kuwait regarding like if there was to bring a fight of that magnitude over, like say a Golovkin or a Johnny Beck, like what's their financial situation to put a fight on like that. So again, like that's a possibility. I've got the possibility they're doing. I think they want to do a big stadium fight in Kuwait in the September, October. I've got my promotion that I'm signed to in Florida, like Pro Box. They're always doing big shows, so I've got quite a lot of options. I'm in like a fortunate position. So yeah, I think it's good that I'm being kept busy. I know it's not a fight, but it's rounds and it's experience again, and keeping sharp against like a world class guy. And I'm able, I think I'll have a good rest after this one because it will be like 2 events in 2 weeks and like a lot of traveling. So once I've done that, I'll have a couple of weeks off and then just like sit down and get the chessboard ready and see what the next move is.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it's very much a bright future for you, which is really good news. We'll talk about some past fights as well. Before we do, real quick with the Kuwait one, just to give that a little bit of a plug for you because it's coming up quick. How do people watch that? How do people stream it and everything? Just for people who don't know.
I've got the details, but they're in like it's tagged on their page, and it's obviously like a different language, like Arabic or something. But I've got like loads of things shared on my social media, so I'll probably have all details on that. And I think their Instagram is KSP Q80 Sport Promotion. So if you want to have a follow of anything there, to jump on that.
Absolutely, yeah. Just wanted to give that a quick mention. So obviously, we've talked about the future, and I've started with the future because there's some big things that are yet to come for you. Obviously, you have already achieved some amazing things in your career as well. So with this one, it's a pretty big question, I'm sorry, because it sort of encompasses everything. But I'd be curious to get your thoughts on what some of your favorite fights are as a professional, what some of your personal proudest moments are as a professional. And I know it's a big question, but we'll talk more in depth soon about like the Munguia fight and some of the individual ones that sort of hone in on them. But first, because we won't have time today, obviously, to talk about everything individual, I thought it'd be good to get like an overview of some of your personal highlights in your own mind. So yeah, take it away with that one, please, in your own words.
Yeah, so I've got like a lot of personal highlights. Like my professional debut was obviously a good one. It was, start of the journey and like a big following there. I think a lot of my title fights like a proud moments. Like at a point in my career was fighting at Victoria Warehouse in Manchester, and that was a great venue, and I had like a good following there. I used to sell that out, and I had like 2 good performances for regional titles there and good stoppages. The Martin Fidel Rios fight was a tough fight at the arena, again for the WBO Intercontinental. So that was a good highlight. I was hurt, and I come out with a win. The Liam Smith one is another highlight because it was top of the bill at the Manchester Arena, even though I didn't get a decision. Short notice at my age for a world title at that time was something to look back on better now. Obviously, at the time it stung a little bit, but I'm happy with that. At the Stallion Kostov fight at the arena again, co-main event to Parker and Hughie Fiore. That was one of the best performances in my career, and again, I put on a good performance against a dangerous guy. The Dennis Hogan one is still a bit of a shitter because I felt like I was unlucky not to get that. But again, it travelled, and the first time I travelled in my career, went to Brisbane, Australia. Then the new part, like I won as a big outsider against the Kanat Islam in Florida. Won the WBO Global, which is like the most high ranked belt below the world title for them. And yeah, he's an unbeaten fighter from Kazakhstan with a big knockout percentage. And, I was like 1-28 underdog against him going in. And, even though I lost the following fight against Munguia, that was a big one because it was in Anaheim. It was in a big stadium, the Honda Center. It was a sold out on the zone, and I felt like I won the first 4 rounds until we showed his experience and made the adjustments and caught me in the fifth. So hats off to him. And the last fight was obviously a tough one because I've gone from being the underdog in 2 massive fights to being again like the A side, and it's probably a little bit. I prefer being like the underdog really, and to be the favourite in the fight, but knowing that other fights and big opportunities are looming, that was quite difficult to adapt to again. And it was another good performance in Florida. So yeah, I've travelled quite a bit, and I've got like quite a lot of experience, and it's just another destination on the list. And this week, even though it's not a fight, it's still everything but, and it's a world class guy that I'm with.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely amazing. Like I said, we'll hone in on one or two of those, but it's just I love asking that question because you sort of never know which fights are going to pop up with different people because
Yeah.
obviously it's in their own words. So thank you. That's awesome to give those a mention. You touched on a couple of things there. Something I think that actually isn't talked about enough is the traveling side because obviously boxing, as well as having obviously the money and the fame and the belts and everything, it can obviously take you around the world. And I think this is inspiring for like any up and comers or any sort of
Mm.
amateurs or people starting out watching this. I think it's inspiring for them. Do you have a favorite place that boxing has taken you in the world that you've got to visit sort of through the sport or anything? I mean, it might be, for all I know, it might be fighting like a hometown crowd. That might be your favorite, but there also might be certain places that you've gone that you sort of never would have gone if it wasn't for boxing, if you get what I mean. So it'd be good to just touch on that briefly as well.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to be able to travel around a little bit. You know, you can't beat fighting in Manchester. You know, it's a big fight at the arena. But I think outside of everything else, like Anaheim was okay. Brisbane was good, and I enjoyed the time there, and the people were great. You know, I done my camp on like the Gold Coast and that, so it's like 40 minutes outside of Brisbane. But I think for me, like the place that really stands out is Plant City in Florida, where you know I beat Kanat Islam and I beat Aloha Diaz a couple of weeks ago. Um, that's Pro Box's base, and so the way to describe it is, it's like you know, you think of Florida and you've got all like the commercial bits of like Universal and Disney, and about an hour between. So is it in between like Tampa and Orlando? There's Plant City where the base is, and it's really like just like normal America, like nothing commercial, and he's like got like small town that you can go and get like a bit of food from or whatnot. You got like the big houses all like detached, and it's quite nice around there. It's like a good feeling. It's somewhere like if they said what was the most relaxing place, I think there like there's not really much to do. Like if you're in like a training camp, like there's no distractions. It's just like really it's like dead residential. There's not really like anywhere to take your mind off it, and it's not like you in Tampa Center where you probably got like other things, and obviously Orlando where you got distractions with like the parks and that. Like there is not really much to do, but it's got like a nice quiet feel to it, and like the little town and that, like it's got like a little cafes and everyone sort of knows each other. So I think to me, like it was quite a relaxing place to be, leading up to the fight and that.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. It's very cool because these are the things that people don't necessarily see just from watching the fight. You know, you sort of get a little bit behind the scenes. One other behind the scenes thing before we move on, you also mentioned just now about sort of liking being the underdog, you know, liking having that process and everything. So I'd like to get into that a little bit as well about like how you mentally prepare for big fights because the thing is, obviously physically training is essential, but a lot of that's out there on social media. People can check out like your Instagram and different things, and not just you, but a lot of guys in the sport. You can see a little bit of what's going on in the training, but the mental side of it is not really talked about. So let's get into your process of like on a build up to a big fight. I mean, I know you've been doing this a long time, but it is still a unique position to be in for somebody outside of it, you know, who doesn't get in the ring to understand it. So what is your process leading up to a big fight or leading up to any fight really?
Um, there's just like a bit of something different. Like when you're the underdog, there's just like a different feel to it. Like you've got to it's like the unknown, and you've got like that fear factor a little bit more. I think for me, like when I went into the Kanat Islam fight, like he was 28-0 with 24 knockouts, so that was a tough fight to go in for. But you know, I think it's just like I'm confident, like massively in myself, and even though like a lot of people didn't give us a chance, like maybe like prove them wrong a little bit. And I always feel like right, there's no pressure on me. Like I'm away from home. Um, but I'm not just turning up to make up the numbers. Like I'm turning up like fully focused for the win. And I don't know, just it just seems like a different aura. Like when you're the underdog, like you've got to prove everything wrong, and especially like the Kanat Islam fight because I've not been the most active like during COVID and whatnot, and you know, and I thought this if I can't get the win on this fight, like not really anywhere for me to go. Like I'll just be used as like a measuring stick. But I fully believe that I've got the win in this fight, and even though I wasn't given a chance, everything was stacked in his favour to get the Munguia fight. Like I enjoyed like the underdog process, and it felt good. Like my heritage is Irish, and I remember thinking like, yeah, like my family and like the name Kelly means warrior, so it's like, yeah, my family and my ancestors have been doing this like all through the generations and for probably centuries, and how many times have they come up against like these situations where they're probably not meant to come through, and then they've obviously come through because I'm here and I'm still carrying that second name. So for me, it was like, all right, like I've got to go to Florida to fight this Kazakh kid. I was like, cool. And then the same mindset when I fought Munguia, it's like, yeah, it's the same again. Like I've done it before, and I know what it takes to swim the channel and come out on top in a big fight where you're the underdog.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, man. The whole underdog can win thing and everything. It's amazing. Yeah, the mentality, bringing out the best in yourself with like when your back's against the wall type of thing, figuratively speaking. I get where you're coming from with that. Something to touch on briefly here, that I was wanting to mention. I've read that you actually take grass from your mother's grave, if you don't mind me bringing this up.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
actually put that in your hand wraps and everything as well as part of your process. Does that give you like in your mind like sort of a mental edge that she's sort of watching on, she's proud of you, or something along those lines, if you don't mind mentioning it?
yeah. I think it's something I've done like all my career, and I'm not really sure why. Like she passed away before my professional debut, so she's never seen me fight. And I think about 6 months after she died, like I made my debut. It was just something I'd done and carried on through. And I'm not like a superstitious person, but I just feel like, she was a big part of my life, and she was a big part of like my boxing career. She was like always encouraging when I was like an amateur, like to do my best, and she'd always like drive us to different shows and come and watch all my fights. So I think it's just like, yeah, you're still part of the journey. Like I know you're not here anymore, but you're still part of the journey, and you're still like a massive part of like my life and even my kids' life. Like my kids obviously only like 6 and 4, but they've never met her, but there's still like I still like talk about her a lot, and I can see a lot of similarities in like me daughter, especially like to my mum, and like I always try to keep her alive, like even though she's not. I think that she is somewhere, like, and our paths will cross again.
Absolutely. Well, it's a beautiful way to sort of honor memory and everything. And
Yeah,
I appreciate you mentioning that because it is personal, but I just thought
yeah,
it's something that it's a beautiful way to honor that. So you mentioned, obviously we've mentioned a few fights, we've mentioned a few highlights and we've sort of touched on it, but getting your thoughts on the Munguia fight, just for a moment broadly. We'll only have time to hone in on one or two, but let's do it anyway. You did touch on this earlier with the highlights, but just your memories of anything you'd like to share, whether it's the build up to the fight, whether it's the fight itself. I've seen another interview where you were talking about this, about the little bit of a weight difference there, and there were some other factors that went into it as well. So
yeah.
just things that stick with you now, good or bad, and things that people may not know about the fight just from watching it. Anything you'd like to share, that would be awesome.
Yeah, but in regards to the fight, like I knew like he's a superstar and he's probably going to be the next Canelo that they're going to try and build him as and whatnot. All that weight. Um, but like to be fair, Golden Boy were like cool with me. They allowed like a little bit of wiggling room in regards to my gloves, because the gloves that Salvador that I like to fight in, they weren't passed in California. They were like, yeah, no problem. Like we'll get them passed for you. Like they were quite like hospitable. But one of the things was it was like 165 the weight, and obviously I'm 160 normally. There's only like 4 weeks notice to fight, for whatever reason. But I was in training anyway because I thought I'd be fighting a kid, Tadabor or something like a few weeks after on a Pro Box. So I was already scheduled to be fighting. So I was in shape anyway. But it came, and yeah, they weighed in like I think it's like 7:30 in the morning the day before the fight. So really, it could be like 2 days where like hydrating, and obviously have the weigh-in, the ceremony weigh-in. And he was like, so he weighed it 165, and he was close to 200 pounds by the time the fight came. And I was like, say 177, 178. So I put on like 12 or 13 pounds. And but I felt like I was comfortable in the fight, boxing ability wise. I just felt like the strength and the size of him was like the difference, and me movement, and that was obviously causing him issues early. But fair play, he made the adjustments and landed the right shots in the fifth round. But it is a good experience. I feel like my stock rose from it. Like I said, Oscar De La Hoya came in the changing room after the fight and was like full of praise for us. He's like, fantastic fighter. You'll win a world title at 160. He said, I was having a heart attack. I was asking the matchmaker who sat next to me if we got a rematch clause in this fight or not, because we might be needing it. So that was quite nice to, instead of like going straight into his change room, he come and sat with us for like 10 or 15 minutes and have pictures, and you think, we're like the away fighter, and that's like your guy, like in the room down the corridor, and you sat in here with us, which I thought was quite a nice touch, to be fair.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's fair play to him, for coming to see you all and everything. That's I like that. So obviously, I mean, we're coming up on time fairly sharpish now, so we'll wrap this up shortly so you can get to your family commitment. But the Liam Smith fight as well is another one that I'd like to mention. I know obviously we've started with Munguia, which is sort of more recent, and now we're going back in time as well. But I still think that was a great achievement. I'm sure people ask you about it a lot. It probably comes up all the time. But nonetheless, just to get the same type of thing, like the fight in your own words, your memories, your favorite moments from it and everything. And then I think we've got time for one or two more things after that and we'll wrap it up. But yeah, that fight in your own words, please.
Yeah, that was 2015, so it was like, what, 8 years ago. I was only like 22, 23. I was still a baby really at the time. You think you're ready, and you think you're mature, but when you compare yourself to like being 30 years old now, you're like, yeah, you were so naive, and like you weren't what you could be. But at the time, like, you're young and you're confident. And again, that one come around like short notice really. I think he was supposed to fight Shane Mosley Jr. Shane Mosley Senior. They couldn't agree, and I was on holiday in Iceland. I just thought I had a hard fight, and then I was supposed to fight on the Terry Flanagan Derry Matthews bill like a few months later. But then obviously Frank offered us a fight, and I was away on holiday, but it was only like 5 weeks. So I thought, it was a world title, like, and it's in Manchester, like, what am I gonna say? So I put my foot down for that, trained hard. I think it was like that at the end of like a tough year. It was like my fifth fight of the year, and four of them were title fights. And the last fight prior against the Argentinian guy, it was quite a tough fight, like, and I was in hospital like till the next morning because I had like two bad hands. And he caught me with a headbutt in my eye, come out like massive, you know what I mean? So it was only like 8 weeks between the two. So I wasn't in full fitness and stuff like that. But obviously he just beat John Thompson, so maybe he wasn't. Okay, Danny will put on charge in a minute, okay? So when it come about, obviously I took the fight, and I think I started the fight well, but there's just a difference in experience. Like, I'd never been at that level before, and I knew in the amateurs I'd boxed at like a decent level. I won like a medal twice in the Europeans, but just in the professionals, like he just knew a bit too much for us at that point. I think fourth round, I damaged my elbow that needed surgery afterwards, and that sort of took away my jab. And once my jab went, everything else sort of fell apart. And he was just like typical Lehman, just like methodically like wore us down. And it's something that I feel like I become a better fighter from. I was able to like look and be like, yeah, he exploited so much of my game there. Like, I back to the drawing board, and I feel like it changed my style. Like, overall, was like quite aggressive and high work rate. And now one of the other things that I can do is can box on my jab. And I was quite privileged to my fight last week when I fought like in Florida. Like, Paulie Malignaggi said, in his opinion, I'm the best back foot boxer in the middleweight division, which again, like, was never my style. So to come from someone like him who's multiple time world champion was like quite flattering, really.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I mean, it sounds like you've learned from a lot from that fight. You've gained from it. It's obviously improved your career from there, and it's still an amazing achievement, man. I mean, it's something a lot of fighters never get, even challenging for a world title. So, you're definitely part of history with that one. Pretty much the last question, before, for the sake of time and everything, I'd like to get a little bit of advice from you for boxers who are starting out, who are sort of maybe fresh into the paid ranks, or they're in the amateur career? I know, again, this is a big question, so we won't have time to get into everything. But if there are any youngsters watching this who sort of look up to you and people like you who've achieved some great things, what would be one or two things you'd say to them that are sort of very important for them to remember as they progress through their careers, if you get what I mean with this one?
I think to be open-minded and learn. Like, one of the many things that I've done is, like, I've traveled around sparring a lot. Like, I've been all over sparring. I've been to Poland, I've been to Spain. I've helped out, like, Eubanks camps. I've been in camps with Kell Brook. I've been in camps with Billy Joe. I've been to Poland and helped a European champion over there. So I think one of the things is, like, be open to learning, be out your comfort zone, and don't be afraid to travel. I think patience as well. Like, one of the big things for, like, boxing, like, things don't happen as quickly as you like them to. And it's easy to get frustrated and get disheartened. So I think having, like, thick skin and patience is, like, a massive one. There was a period of, like, 2 and a bit years with COVID where I didn't fight, and it was frustrating. But I always knew that when things settle down, I'll get an opportunity, and I'm confident in my own ability to do it. So it's just about having that belief and being patient.
Absolutely, yeah. Some good advice there, some good advice. And I do try and do a little bit of that with these interviews, and, give back a little bit, share a few tips and techniques. We've talked about a lot, and I know you've got to go. So I just want to say a big thank you for your time. Anyone who's watching this, obviously, I know they can reach out on your social media and everything, because you're a very accessible guy. They can find out about your upcoming fight on there. So I'll say to everyone watching, please do that. But the last thing for me to say to you, mate, just, yeah, thank you for hopping on the show, and thank you for squeezing this into your day, basically. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the time from yourself as well and the effort. So yeah, we'll catch up again soon, hopefully.
Absolutely. I hope so. Yeah, a few more fights down the line. We'll do this again, 100%. But thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great evening with everything as well. Thank you.
You, pal. All the best, mate. Take care.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.